Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Remember, especially for a video like this, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Right? Now, the purpose of this video is just a little bit of a rant, right? We're going to try to cut through BS because the place to make profits is in the difference between how people think things are and how things really are. Right? Now, you've had some monumental things happen recently. The German government, for example, has encouraged its citizens to think about getting emergency food. You've had high-ranking officials with Deutsche Bank talk about how people's savings might be at risk. Now, against this backdrop, incredibly, gold is under pressure. Right? Keep in mind, Deutsche Bank has already admitted to playing a role in the manipulation of the market prices of precious metals. Right? I just want you to know. Let's just think it through. That gold, which has been around for centuries, can retain value much better than a fiat currency that is backed by nothing other than the temporary support of the people. Right? History has shown us that fiat currencies implode time and time again, especially when you have the kind of debt burdens out there that you have right now. Right? Folks, what I want people to do is to just look at the debt. Just ask yourself whether, whatever country you're in your lifetime, is it feasible for your country to actually pay off the debt? Right? Japan, I'm talking to you. The United States of America, I'm talking to you. Right? If you feel that this debt sooner or later is going to be a problem, if you feel that your currency is going to change in market price, right? There's going to be volatility. Then understand that gold, silver, other precious metals are a safe harbor. I personally feel that silver right now is an even better investment than gold. But let's just say I'd rather have my money in silver or gold than in the US dollar. Right? Don't believe what's been happening to the gold market the last 10 days. Right? I question whether in fact the volatility, the changing price, the dropping price is a result of a free open market. In the long run, of course, I expect gold and silver to fare far better than the dollar. I'll agree with those who believe that the dollar is going to be viewed as a safe harbor if you're in, some other currency that's collapsing, right? Certainly, if I were in Venezuela, I would view the dollar as a safer play than the local currency. Okay, great. But you and I know the dollar has problems. Just look at the debt. The Obama administration by itself increased the debt by $8 trillion. Right? Think about that. Right? Short term, maybe the dollar holds value. Long term, I'd feel more comfortable, quite frankly, and today is August the 24th, 2016, in gold or silver, especially silver. Let's shift gears, right? Let's talk real estate. Let me tell you, I'm in the Bay Area, right? In San Jose, the median price of a home right now is $1 million. Right? In Oakland, it's over $600,000. You've got to be kidding me. If you haven't figured out that real estate is a bubble, you need to look at the Vancouver market. Last month, the real estate market in Vancouver dropped by 20%. 20%. I know there are a lot of transactions in the real estate space. You need to be a skeptic here. Right? Just like the Vancouver market dropped by 20%. Just like the luxury end of the Manhattan real estate market has been in tatters of late. Right? That's falling like a rock. You need to assume that it's only a matter of time before more areas suffer a downward draft. Think about it. If the median price of a home in San Jose, a big city of roughly 1 million people, is at $1 million, then where do school teachers live? Where do plumbers live? Do you believe every school teacher here in this city is a millionaire able to afford $1 million mortgage? Come on, get real, right? Be careful. Now's not the time to invest in real estate, right? Don't fall for, propaganda from real estate trade groups. All right, let's shift gears. People here know that I'm into some, not all, but some cryptocurrencies, right? I've been here online talking about things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dash, my personal favorite, right? And Monero. Well, readers have pointed out to me that Monero is on fire, right? I'm guessing it's because Alphabet, an outfit you might not have heard of, but they're big on the dark net, right? You're not going to find them through Google, right? Alphabet, a marketplace, has now announced that starting next month, they're going to have support for Monero. Now, Monero has been on fire because Monero protects the user's privacy, right? And unlike Dash, again, my favorite, unlike Dash, Monero isn't based on Bitcoin, right? It's based on the crypto note protocol. I would encourage everyone, since I like the idea of digital cash, of transactions being private, right? I want everyone to research Monero, whether you're going to invest in it or not. At least find out about it. Understand Monero, within the last 4 weeks, has more than doubled in value. What this also should tell all of us is that the world is catching on to the fact that Bitcoin leaves fingerprints on the blockchain. Everyone knows who does Bitcoin transactions, right? They can link your transaction to, the blockchain. Forget Dash for a moment. Cash is more anonymous, right? I can go to the store and buy a gallon of milk using cash and be more anonymous than if I went to the store and bought that gallon of milk using Bitcoin and, of course, my Bitcoin address and stuff like that. So I think this just shows you the maturation of the market in assessing these technologies. Just rest assured that I'm a big fan of Dash. If you look me up here online, you'll see that I did a video when Dash was called Darkcoin. Right? Let's just say that Dash has done well for investors. And this still, in my opinion, is the first half of the first inning. For those of you interested in starting a Dash masternode, I would suggest that you take a look at node40.com. Right? They'll make it easy for you. I'm also a fan of Bitcoin, which will have and continues to have first mover status. Right? None of the other cryptocurrencies come close to Bitcoin's daily market volume. Right? I am a fan of Monero. I've owned Monero in the past. I don't own any Monero now. I do feel that there is a chance that eventually Ethereum is going to pass Bitcoin because you can just do so much more with Ethereum. Let's briefly talk about the fork. people need to understand that the DAO, the hacking that took place in the Ethereum world, wasn't on the currency. It was on a smart contract. The currency continues to be robust, right? As for the split, I prefer Ethereum rather than Ethereum Classic, simply because Classic is new. It doesn't have the backing of, the infrastructure of regular Ethereum. I understand there are those of you who feel that smart contracts should never be altered even when they've been hacked, right? Okay, fair enough. But for me, an investor, I'm really more interested in the return of my capital, the safety of my capital, right? So I'm predisposed to be skeptical of these offshoots, right? So just know I prefer Ethereum to Ethereum Classic. I am monitoring that situation. Let's segue into sports, right? Kell Brook. Now, Kell Brook to me is obviously a Hall of Famer, right? Obviously a Hall of Famer. But when I call him a Hall of Famer, I'm really calling him a Hall of Famer because of his boxing, not his top 10 pound-for-pound list. Now, on his top 10 pound-for-pound list, he somehow has Saul Alvarez ranked ahead of Golovkin. You know what? I won't even consider putting Saul Alvarez ahead of Golovkin until I see Golovkin avoid Saul Alvarez in the ring the way Saul Alvarez is avoiding Golovkin. All I can say is this. Kell is crazy here, isn't he? In fact, I think Kell is talking his own book. We'll get to that in a minute. But Saul Alvarez has had so many close fights, right? The Erislandy Lara fight, can we agree that that was close? Right? Some people were nervous at the end of that fight. We had to wait around for the decision at the end of that fight. Right? What I want people to do too, and I keep saying this in video after video, is look at the CompuBox numbers for Saul Alvarez's fight against Austin Trout, another fight that went the distance. And of course, Saul Alvarez lost to Floyd Mayweather. No, harm in that. Except that Alvarez got completely dominated. I don't care what the scorecards had to say about it. Alvarez got completely dominated. That was a fight where by the 8th round you were looking at your watch, right? This wasn't a fight where you were thinking, oh man, this is incredible. That was a fight where you were thinking, well, what am I going to do after this fight? Gee, where am I going to eat dinner? Right? I mean, Alvarez had no answers. He just looked like he was in the major leagues for the first time. Now contrast that with Golovkin, where we aren't talking about fighters going the distance. At least not the last, dozen and a half fights. We're not even talking about fighters going the distance with Golovkin. Right? There are no CompuBox numbers where you look at the CompuBox and say, gee, did they score the fight right? The scoring's irrelevant. Guys end Golovkin fight semi-conscious. Knocked out. Right? Think about it. Knocked out. Golovkin has no Floyd Mayweather losses on his record. Golovkin has no fights where you looked at the fight and you thought, man, at the 6th round mark, has Golovkin won a round? I'm telling you, for the Canelo-Floyd fight, it was around round 6, and I was thinking, man, has Canelo won a round? There are no such fights on the Golovkin resume. Right? None whatsoever. Right? Canelo recently went the distance with Miguel Cotto. Right? When's the last time Golovkin went the distance? But let's get real. Now, I know Carl is saying, hey, man, who has Golovkin fought? Right? You know, the bottom line is that Golovkin, we thought more highly of people like Matthew Macklin before his fight against Golovkin than we did after the fight. Right? Daniel Gill, who's fighting for the IBO super middleweight title soon, right, was a former middleweight champion. He got blown out by Golovkin, didn't he? You know, Golovkin makes guys who were credible look bad. We're really going to blame the fighter for that? Right? Wasn't that Matthew Macklin, we all know, beating Felix Sturm and then getting robbed on the decision? Right? Has Matthew Macklin ever looked worse than he did against Golovkin? Didn't Golovkin fight David Lemieux when David Lemieux had a share of the middleweight title? Folks, that's the division he fights in. So let's be clear here. Golovkin has fought multiple guys who have held shares of the middleweight crown. Right? Multiple guys. And of course, the end has been a Golovkin ending. Golovkin knocking the guy out. So, we know Canelo walks around north of 160 pounds. Golovkin said, hey, I'm ready to fight. Let's fight. Let's fight. And then Canelo's people, Oscar De La Hoya, a fighter himself. And I'll give Oscar credit. During his career, he fought people. Right? He fought Trinidad when Trinidad was unbeaten. He fought Shane Mosley twice. He fought El Feroz. Right? Fernando Vargas. He fought Floyd Mayweather. He fought Ricardo Mayorga. Right? He fought Julio Cesar Chavez. Here was Oscar, a warrior, saying, hey, you know what? We'll fight Golovkin not this year. Not the first half of next year. We'll fight him sometime next fall. Come on, man. I'm throwing a red cup on that one. You got to be kidding. If someone hops out the weeds on me and says, hey, who do you rank higher, Golovkin or the guy who's avoiding Golovkin, I'm going to say Golovkin. Right? Now, Carl was one of the people. Let's be real here. Carl was one of the people who apparently was approached by the Golovkin camp. Carl Froch knows Golovkin wants to fight A-level competition because Carl Froch was approached by Golovkin. Carl decided, and I believe wisely, that, hey, he's retired, right? You're retired, you're wealthy. The life of a fighter, a hungry fighter, you know, road work early in the morning, getting hit for a living, sparring, hopping on the scale, wondering whether you're close to making weight, dealing with injuries, sore hands, sore ribs, sore head, right? That's hard to go back to. When you're retired and living the kind of penthouse lifestyle that Carl Froch is living. So Carl Froch said, nah, look, you know, I'm out of the sport. At some point, even old masters have to leave the jungle to the young lions. Right? Okay, fine. But for Carl to now say, who has he fought? When Carl himself knows that he didn't want to fight Golovkin, to me is being unfair. So, I know it upsets a lot of people. I know Canelo is one of the most popular men in boxing. I'm aware of the fact, trust me, that BoxRec.com has Canelo ranked as the top fighter in the sport pound for pound. I expect more from guys who know boxing, who've been in the game like Carl Froch. We know Canelo wants no part of Golovkin. It's so ridiculous. Canelo was a middleweight champ who left the middleweight division because he didn't want to fight Golovkin. So please, spare me the Canelo is ranked ahead of Golovkin. Come on what planet Is that so? Not this one, right? At least on this site. I'm just telling you my thoughts. Look, I know I'm just one guy. You have your opinion, right? I'll just say, when I heard that Carl was ranking Canelo above Golovkin, I had a good laugh for a good 10 minutes, right? You know, to quote Hall & Oates, I can't go for that. I have Golovkin ranked much higher. Let's talk about Kell Brook for a moment, right? I made a video here online. You know, I said, hey, I don't think Kell Brook is going to come back down to 147 to fight Errol Spence, right? Errol Spence is the kind of young lion, right, who to me, guys like Kell Brook recognize. Because Kell Brook used to be this kind of hungry young lion. These are the hungry fighters who believe they have what it takes to be champion, right? These are the guys who are climbing the mountain, right? Kell Brook has already been champion, right? He's already had the filet mignon. He's already had the beluga caviar, right? He's already, you know, reached the top of the mountain, right? He's already been on vacation and been machete. Okay, that's another story, but you know what I'm talking about here. Errol Spence is a real opponent. Now, you're telling me that Kell Brook is going to fight an absolute tiger at 160, Golovkin. And you're telling me that after that fight, Kell Brook claims he's going to drop back down to 147 pounds to fight Errol Spence? Come on. You gotta be kidding. Let's just say, I believe the best bets make themselves, right? If I hear that Kell Brook, whatever happens in the Golovkin fight, if I hear that Kell Brook is gonna then fight Errol Spence next at 147 pounds, as much as I love Kell Brook, right? I picked Kell Brook over Sean Porter, for crying out loud. I'd be with the young lion. I think it's a mistake to look at films of Kell Brook at his best and then ask the question whether Kell Brook's A game can beat Errol Spence's A game. Because we know right now Kell Brook won't be on his A game. When you weigh 176 pounds for the 30-day weigh-in before a middleweight fight, there is no way in hell you're going to suddenly show up at 147 and remotely resemble yourself. None whatsoever. Let me give you a little tidbit in boxing history. Supposedly, a Ray Leonard associate saw Roberto Duran at a restaurant. This is after Duran beat Ray. And of course, Duran was, you know, an eater. So Duran was having a big meal. And Duran looked big, kind of like Ricky Hatton does between fights. Or used to when he was still fighting. So you know the rest. The Ray Leonard people then offered Duran a bunch of money for the rematch. And demanded that the rematch take place that fall. So Duran lost the weight. Entered the ring, wasn't himself. Turned to the referee and said, no mas. Right? Ray's fight plan was to actually move in the ring. Forced Duran, who had just lost the weight, to actually try to move around and find him. Duran said, no mas. Right? If you go back and look at a film of the fight, you'll notice that Duran actually wins a couple of rounds. You know the Ray Leonard people didn't want that fight taking place 6 months later. You know, they didn't want Duran actually having an opportunity to lose his weight in a responsible manner. They rushed him back in the ring. Ray Leonard got his title. Now I'm hearing the sanctioning body is telling Kell Brook, look, whatever happens in this Golovkin fight, you need to fight Errol Spence soon. Right? It's going to be too soon. Kell Brook's not going to be able to drop back down to 147 and be himself. Right? Let me say this too. You remember Roy Jones? Dropped back down, got KO'd by Antonio Tarver in the rematch. Got stopped. Never recovered. Then got stopped by Glenn Johnson. Right? Let's be real too. Errol Spence is a great guy, I'm sure. Right? He got great numbers. Spectacular numbers for his fight against Leonard Bundu, and you know American viewers weren't tuning in to watch Leonard Bundu. Right? Home run for Errol Spence. Right? These are the kind of young guys who are more popular than you realize. But you're telling me if Kell Brook beats Golovkin, his next move is going to be to abdicate the middleweight crown? Come on. Isn't there an Englishman who has a share of the middleweight title? How much money would Kell Brook get fighting Billy Joe Saunders in a unification match? Isn't Billy Joe unbeaten? Keep in mind, that'd be a battle of unbeatens. And then, of course, he could have the rematch with Golovkin. Right? Kell Brook's a little bit older now. Those fights would give him a much bigger legacy than fighting a dangerous young lion. Right? I mean, you know, in a lighter weight class. Let me say this too. Not all of these weight classes are created equally. Right? I'm just telling you that the middleweight title just has more gravitas than most of the belts around it. Right? Much more gravitas. You know, we don't think of these hybrid divisions, super middleweight, the way we think of the middleweight title. You say middleweight, people think Monzon. Right? They think Hagler. Right? You know, it's a big, you know, Robinson. Right? Big history. If you're Kell Brook, there is no way that you turn your back on that history if you beat Golovkin. So I think Kell Brook is just talking out the side of his neck. Right? Let's face it. None of these fighters want to look like a punk. For marketing purposes, Kell Brook wants to hold his welterweight title as long as possible. Some reporter pops out and says, "Are you willing to fight Errol Spence?" Right? If Kell Brook is willing to fight Golovkin, Kell Brook doesn't want to look like a punk. He doesn't want to say, "No, I don't want to fight Errol Spence." No. He's going to say, "Yeah, of course I'll fight Errol Spence." You know, yeah, I'll fight him at 147. Right? Don't bet on that. Right? And if Kell Brook is crazy enough to try to lose the weight to fight Errol Spence after his dust-up with Golovkin, take Errol Spence in that one. Let me go one step further. There's a chance, in fact, it's what I think is going to happen, I'm just telling you my opinion, that Kell Brook gets beaten up badly by Golovkin. If you see Kell Brook hit the canvas against Golovkin, there is no way people who care about him is going to say, "Hey, you know what, you just got your ass kicked by Golovkin. Now let's fight the guy who just stopped Leonard Bundu for the only time in Bundu's career." No, the people who care about Kell are going to say, "Hey, you know what? We need a dude who can punch as our next opponent." Right, brother? Take some time off. Let's have some Mai Tais on the beach someplace. And, you know, relax. Don't even think about fighting. And then let's come back in a fight where you have a bigger margin of error than you would have against Errol Spence. Anyway, that's how I see it. Let me hear from you. If you disagree with anything I've said here on any topic, I hope you leave those comments in the comment section to this video. Thanks for stopping by.